So food rules are an accumulated concept around food that you obtain from diets, the fitness industry, family, and culture. So your rules are not guidelines or boundaries that create flexibility and a healthy relationship with food. Instead, what they do is they create an unhealthy and rigid relationship with food. Now, here's just a few examples of some food rules, but I would love to hear from you about your food rules, because some people have some weird and wacky food rules and other people have some of the average food rules. So here we go. Carbs are bad. Fats are bad. Fruit is full of sugar. I need to count calories and macros, and I can't eat outside of my allocation. I can have a cheat day if I stick to my diet for the rest of the time. Certain foods are good, bad, or naughty. I feel guilty if I eat more than I should at a meal, or if I eat a bad or naughty food. So there's just some examples. And that's why I said I'd love to hear from you about what your food rules are, because rules are based on, as I said, myths and false beliefs around food, and they're not about listening and responding to your body. And then this creates food confusion, obsession, and negative emotional attachment where there shouldn't be any. So food's really about eating for nourishment of your brain and your body, and it's not to be used as a weapon in a battle within a war. And really, that's what tends to happen when we have rules around food. A healthy relationship with food really means that you and your body are a team, that you focus on nutrition and nourishment first. So it's about what is going to give you the right balance of fuel until your next meal. And that means eating regularly and not starving yourself. And it's responding to your hunger. So on some instances, some days you'll be more hungry than others. So you respond to that. It's about flexibility and constant response to your body. And I'll give you an example of myself. And it doesn't make sense, but I can have a really nutrient dense and rich balanced meal, which has got carbohydrates, it's got vegetables, and it's got protein. And then within an hour and a half to 2 hours, my blood glucose has dropped and put me into a hypo. Now, in theory, that shouldn't happen, but that's what my body does. So in response, I need to listen to that. If I don't, then the hypo is going to get worse. I'm going to get more and more shaky. I'm going to get headaches, and I'm going to get more and more nauseous. So then I need to feed it. I need to feed it something small that is, again, balanced with carbohydrates and protein, such as half a mandarin and a few nuts. And that then tends to balance me out. But if I was thinking about food rules, then I would say to myself, I can't have any more. I only just ate. And so I would starve my body, and I'd put myself into a hypo and actually make myself sick because I'm not responding. And this is what tends to happen with a lot of people. They don't realize what they're doing. They're depriving themselves, they're restricting themselves. And this is not about choice. This is not about listening. And we need to start learning how to listen and respond, and how to have a voice and to choose what is nourishing and healthy, and not about the rules. Now, when we're talking about choosing and responding, it's about choosing foods that are 80% from unprocessed healthy foods. And that gives us that 20% to have from the processed and not so healthy foods. So it keeps that yum in our diet, and it allows us that flexibility to have something that we want. And not being deprived is part of what leads us to balance and not then binge or be obsessed about food. Because it's when we deprive ourselves or restrict ourselves and say, no, 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 we can't. Well, what happens? When we say no, then our brain goes, oh, I want, I want, I want, I want. And then you can't stop thinking about it. And then eventually it tends to be you overconsume because you've been depriving yourself rather than having a little bit. So, one of the things that I want to talk about here is my relationship with chocolate. So my relationship with chocolate. Now, some of you may know my history and some of you may not, but I'm an recovering food addict and I've had multiple disordered eating, which means that milk chocolate for me, I binge on. And still to this day, in recovery since 2009, and still if I have milk chocolate, I will binge. So what I did is I changed it to dark flavoured chocolate, so which means I love orange and peppermint. But I add protein to that, which is dry roasted almonds. And in the beginning, what I said to myself is I can have as much as I want. So I did that. Just left it open. And what I found is I didn't need as much. And it was also, I wasn't depriving myself. I was still giving myself that yum. But eventually over time, because it was there, I wasn't depriving, and I could have it whenever I wanted, the novelty wore off. And as a result, I would go then months and months and months without wanting or needing chocolate because I could. And now if I want it, I have it, but I can go, as I said, months without it. And that's what happens if we take away the negative emotional attachment. We take away the naughty, the bad, the I can't, the rules around it, and we just allow ourselves. But as I said, we still need to put boundaries around and be flexible rather than deprive, restrict, and all of those sorts of things. But knowing yourself, and if you do have disordered eating, you know those trigger foods that your brain chemistry just attaches to and you have a binge. So then you need to find those foods that still keep the yum in your diet, but just reduce that, what I call excitation or triggering process. So that way you feel like you can still have something nice. I really want to have a deeper conversation about everybody's rules, because if we can understand what our food rules are and get them on the table, then we can demystify them and change them so that we can have a healthier, more balanced relationship with food. So please, after this video, write your comments and let's open this discussion. Let's get it on the table. So I'm here to help you, and so is Joelle, my lovely assistant. Many of you will know her, and we're here to provide you with guidance, support, etc., so that we become a big community of support for each other. So it is just finding those little things and just having them there so you don't feel deprived, but you have them when you need them or want them, and that's really important. So thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to continuing the conversation with everybody who watches this later. Take care. Bye.